Well, hello everybody and welcome. Thanks for watching. Today's topic, the Cars albums ranked on my personal scale. Now you'd be hard pressed to find a bigger Cars fan than me back when they were having their run back in the day. Every album was an automatic buy, and every album almost was an automatic play until the needle fell off because just loved it. And in the car, had the cassette going as well. So they were favorites of mine and my circle. So huge Cars fan. Let's get to the rankings and see if you agree with me. Those of you who are Cars fans as well, millions of you out there, right? Okay, so here we go. Album number 5. Not that it's my least favorite Cars album, or I think it's the worst one in that kind of sense. It's just in a ranking system, somebody has to be number 5, and this one is it. Heartbeat City. Now, this actually might come as a surprise to some of you, because it was pretty much the Cars at the height of their national rock and roll powers. MTV was up and running, videos were a big thing, and the Cars were in the MTV heavy rotation playlist. And so they were pretty much at the height of their powers. And yet, this album to me is the least of my favorites. Why? Well, I'll tell you. Being a Cars fan from album number 1 all the way to this 5th album is, you would have had to have made some changes and agreements in what you were going to accept and love from the Cars. Especially if you came in at album number 1 and that was the standard that they set for you. Because by the time we got here, the rock and roll Cars are pretty much gone. And the synth sugar pop Cars, MTV video Cars are here. And they were the ones that America fell in love with. Nothing wrong with it, but it just is my least favorite of the albums. Although I do have a couple of songs that I like that are on here. And what was that? Heartbeat City for sure. The namesake of the album, Heartbeat City, I love it. It's one of my favorite of all the Cars songs. But that doesn't pull it up to, up to the best LP in my opinion. So this album, got super popular and a lot of sales on Drive, which was huge on the radio, huge in the clubs, huge at parties. You might think that was big. And also, Hello Again. That was a huge video. But those songs, not on my constant want to hear it again list. Not really. Because they're just, as I said, a little bit too much sugar pop for me. Now, number 4 in the Cars rankings. Shake It Up. It's pretty good, and it's somewhere in between that departure of the Cars from being a rock band into becoming a full-fledged synth band. But this one also had a couple of big singles, Since You're Gone. I love favorites, Shake It Up, Victim of Love. I really I dig that. I'm not a super fan of that synth pop era of the Cars, but I do have my favorites of that half of their discography. And one of those is Victim of Love, which I really like. Cruiser is here, which is about the last time that we ever hear Elliot Easton letting loose with a guitar and reminding us just, what a strong force he was in the Cars when he was allowed to play. So Cruiser, really good. And Think It Over, I really like. That's also kind of an upbeat, synth-driven song that I love. Number 3 in my Cars rankings, Panorama. Now, in Panorama, he's really starting to, Ric Ocasek songwriting is really starting to dive into that whole synth pop region, but he's still got that, he hasn't given over to radio sugar pop yet, and so he still has a lot of that rock sensibility in his synth writing, and a dangerousness in the lyrics that we had in the early albums. This is kind of the last time that we had that. Favorites off of this album, Panorama, I really love. Give Me Some Slack, Am I Getting Through? These are fast, also poppy, but kind of, as I said, a little bit of a feeling of that dangerousness that the Cars had when they first came on. Misfit Kid, I'm the American Misfit Kid, love that cut. Down Boys is also pretty good. And Elliot Easton getting to shine on Down Boys. So, number 3, the Cars, Panorama, which, even though it's at number 3, these days gets played the most for me. All right, next up, number 2. Yeah, there's only a couple left, and they're the first 2 Cars albums, the debut and the sophomore album. And you might be a little surprised that I chose at number 2 the Cars debut album, which of course would be number 1 on a lot of lists, and it would be correct. But I just happened to choose it as number 2, and I'll give you a little more information on that in a second. But this one here, of course, number 1. Blew my mind when it hit. It immediately had traction on my stereo at home, in my car, in my friends' circles, as I said, and the circles that came to party with us. We were all Cars fans. So this was a really special album to me, not only as a music lover, but in my life, in a segment of my life. This album is a piece of it. Yeah, that nostalgia, just when I play this album, I put on the nostalgia suit, and I'm back in 1978, 79 when this album broke out. Great album. And what I want to mention is something that I rarely hear mentioned, is the drumming of David Robinson from the Cars. Here and on the second album, he's like, Clem Burke. His drums drive Eat to the Beat album of Blondie. That's what David Robinson is doing here and doing in their debut album, Candio. He's just kicking butt and driving these songs out of your speakers. And if you're not listening to David Robinson's drums, do yourself a favor and add another level of appreciation to these songs by focusing on David Robinson's drums, because he's really got it going on these songs. He's just as big as Elliot Easton on guitar, and he's just as big a part as Ocasek's voice and Benjamin Orr's voice here too. All right, but the Cars debut album is number 2, which makes my favorite top-ranked number 1 Cars album, Candio. Now, Candio wasn't as popular as the first Cars album. It's not as legendary, and you won't find it on as many playlists as the debut album. But this one's better for me because I think the songs are, Ocasek's songwriting is even better. It's everything that he did on the debut album, but expanded upon and stretching the writing, stretching what Easton can do with the guitars, stretching what David Robinson's doing with the drums here, driving drum beats. He's got complex songs like Shooby-Doo, moving into Candio, just like on the first album, just like All Mixed Up, or rather moving a stereo, blended and grooved into All Mixed Up at the end. We get the same thing here on the end of side one, and we get Shooby Doo blending and grooving into Candio. And if you never did that, stoned and drunk off your head, then you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. With headphones on, oh my God, that transition of those songs and those two songs paired together at the end of side one. Just absolutely fantastic. And of course, Let's Go is a great, there's, the pop feeling, pop sensibilities, pop genius of Okasek right out there on Let's Go. Since I Held You is like the rock ballad that's not, because it's not 9 minutes long, but it has everything besides the self-importance that a rock ballad should have. And that's Since I Held You. It's All I Can Do has such a great groove, such a great chorus. So love that one. And then we talked about Shooby Doo and Candio closing out side one. Side two, drop it. Every song better than the last one. Night Spots. Oh man. And again, Okasek's lyrics are really breaking out. Night Spots. I crawl up to you. Some pressure cooker crawls up to you on his knees. I mean, just crazy stuff that you get. You know what I'm saying? That was the genius of Okasek's crazy lyrics, was they were out there. But us Cars fans, we got it. We know what it was. We know what he was talking about. It's so easy to fly through a window. Okay, but anyways, getting back to it, Lust for Kicks. There's Robinson, with a great, kind of a groove going there that he's setting for us. And, though closing out again, got a lot on my head, and one of my other top favorite, Dangerous Type. She's the dangerous type. Everything on this album didn't get the radio play, and it doesn't get the love that the debut album gets, nor should it. But man, this thing rewards with repeated plays and close listening. Number one, Candio. Real quick before we split, I want to mention Ric Ocasek's solo album, This Side of Paradise. Yes, he's pretty much being the synth pop guy that he was toward the tail end of the Cars, and now he has the freedom to be that guy all the time. But these songs are very good. He's Drop It, it's 80s, yeah, synth pop, but with like a future vibe behind it. So these are very good songs. I don't think you got much airplay, and it's probably a forgotten album, but if you come across this at the right price, say like in a used bin, grab This Side of Paradise. This is a great solo album. And we, Rick left us too soon, and so we don't have a lot of his music. And so get this, because this is worth, if you haven't heard it, it's some more great Ric Ocasek music. Finally on that, the final note I want to say is I was talking about my favorite albums, right? Vinyl LPs. There are releases that the Cars made of those LPs with expanded versions, which I don't know too much about, to be honest, but I'm imagining that they're cuts that didn't make those studio albums, but they're cuts from that same time. And so I'll bet that they match those musical sensibilities. I haven't listened to all the expanded cuts. 3 of the albums have them, expanded versions. And but I was listening to the expanded version of Heartbeat City. And those tracks are really good. And so if you want some extra Cars to get your feel, those tracks, very good. And I would imagine the tracks on the other expanded, probably on CD releases, those other expanded albums, I'll bet that those tracks are great to fill your emptiness of, I wish the Cars had given me more music. Well, take that expanded and put it in there, and I bet it's going to click for you. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll see you next time. Peace.